Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the new term. We have put together some information how to ace organic chemistry, or at least to get a high B. And yes, I said we because we are Team Orgo. So I am Dr. Schoffers. You can see me here with a picture that's online. I have been a professor of chemistry for over 20 years. I started out as an assistant professor and was promoted through the ranks. My background is organic chemistry with research in medicinal chemistry, environmental chemistry, and there are many other areas. I find chemistry fascinating because I see it as a central science. And we as a team here have put together this presentation to help you get through the semester. I think I speak for everybody in that we care about your success, and so we point out some helpful information to you. My colleagues will also introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Teske. I've been here for 2.5 years. I'm an assistant professor. I have a PhD in organic chemistry with research in medicinal chemistry, so I apply organic chemistry and biochemistry, molecular biology to drug development. In particular, developing small molecule anti-cancer therapeutics for novel targets such as microRNA and protein interactions. I'm really excited to be teaching this class and excited to meet you all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Hanson. I'm a chemistry education specialist in the Department of Chemistry here at WMU. I have over 30 years of teaching experiences in a wide variety of settings, both face-to-face, online, hybrid classes, all under my belt. And with my specialist degree in Chem Ed, I've been working closely with all members of our department, making sure or helping to ensure courses are using the best research-based instructional strategies that provide you with a pathway to your success. So on behalf of all of the members of our organic team, welcome to the new term. I'd like to share a little bit of knowledge that I've gleaned through the years of how to ace organic chemistry or any difficult course for that matter. And one of the pieces of advice I have for doing well in a course like Organic Chem is setting a realistic schedule for studying where you spend an hour or two most days working to master your chemistry concepts. I know that students who try to memorize organic chem may do well in the short term, but really just end up struggling, finding it impossible to keep up with all the rote memorization. So work for mastery of chem concepts and not for rote memorization. I have to emphasize that you want to set a realistic study schedule. Do a chemistry hour or two most days. Make use of your resources, office hours with your instructor. We have teaching assistants, learning assistants. We have free tutoring from the Bronco Study Zone, which can be online or face-to-face if we're permitted. And of course, Katie Easley over in the Student Success Services, again, with a link online at the end of this presentation. All of those resources will be provided for you. And number one, manage your anxiety and all of those, quote, rumors you hear about organic chem. Make sure you're practicing self-care. Why organic chemistry is harder than, say, general chemistry. And having taught Gen Chem for 30 plus years, I know it's a very computational course where general chemistry relies on memorizing a lot of calculations, formulas, applying computations for success. And organic chemistry is just not that same beast. It is material that's conceptual. It's material that accumulates and will integrate different topics as you proceed through the term. So organic chemistry requires mastery, conceptually more challenging topics such as mechanisms, retrosynthesis, applications of knowledge, and just remembering formulas or remembering vocabulary terms really will not lead to success in an organic chem class. The pace is just so much faster. Let me share this visual with you. The triangle shows the levels in Bloom's taxonomy, which is a hierarchy that shows levels of thinking. And many students learn information at the recall level, and maybe if they're challenging themselves, they can do the translation levels. restatement in your own words, paraphrase, summarize. And those are really great note-taking skills. But by the time the evaluation comes, most assessments are really up at the interpretation level or above. So these higher ed levels focus on the ability in terms of subject and not just the ability to memorize, but to apply, to look at relationships and applications. So as you're beginning your journey of mastering concepts, you're down at recall and translation, but your challenge is to really apply, analyze, synthesize in preparation for your evaluation.
So students with GPAs of 3.7 or higher, so how can you be that student? Those students will have studied 30 hours per week outside of class, and they review material prior to class. And so with a virtual setting, which organic one, which what I'm teaching is set for, you're going to have to be reading your textbook before you watch the lecture videos. That's probably the best way to go about it. Get introduced to the concepts and then dive into the actual lectures, which are pre-recorded. You want to stay 1 to 2 chapters ahead in the text. You want to review your notes after class. That way you're constantly reminding yourself what you learned rather than waiting a week, revisiting it, and have forgotten everything. You want to visit your professor, your instructors. This includes LAs and TAs. You want to go to the tutor regularly. Small group study. So this is harder right now during a pandemic, but you can do virtual study groups. And we do have discussion forums within our classes that help facilitate interactions. So take advantage of that. You want to ask questions. If you aren't asking questions, then you have a misconception and not even realize it. We may not even realize you're not understanding something. So ask questions. We want to answer those for you. Students with a GPA of 2.0 or less. So these are students that aren't studying 30 hours a week, rather they're doing 8 to 12 hours out of class. They're not reviewing the material prior to going to that class or watching that virtual lecture. They're behind. You have to be reading your textbook. You can't ignore your textbook. You can't get everything from the lecture either. It's literally impossible to lecture everything. And so you need to be reading as well from your text. They don't ask questions or rarely ask questions. They're not discussing that information with their instructors, their classmates, or friends, which is really important. The communication of science and talking about it with each other is really important for comprehending it as well. And so in effect, they just did not use advanced study skills, and this is what happens. And your GPA will reflect that.
So what can you do now? And we have been proactive in putting together this presentation because we want you to be prepared from day one to understand what the challenges are of learning organic chemistry. It's really a unique area that requires specific skills. So spend more time studying chemistry, at least 9 hours per week. You have to keep up with the other classes as well. Be kind to yourself and make a good schedule. You want to aim for understanding. As was mentioned earlier, rote memorization is often a kiss of death. I find, unfortunately, that students continue to look for shortcuts, try to just memorize material when that is not helpful. You really want to aim to understand. What helped me, and I was a learner a long time ago, in learning organic chemistry was to be open to understanding how I best understand the material, take copious notes, and seek out help when necessary, but you need to take responsibility. I see my role as an instructor often as a tour guide or akin to a tour guide. We're about to take a hike through the mountains, and I can show you where to be careful and not to trip up. But in the end, the student still needs to do the hike itself. And so you need to take responsibility for your learning. And there are lots of resources, as mentioned before. We have the Bronco Study Zone, we have the Student Success Services, we have review sessions, and there are office hours. Your instructors want you to succeed. They want to help you. Use a continuous process of learning and study sessions. You want to show consistency. And research is clear that students who have good study habits will end up doing much better in a challenging class like organic chemistry. One phrase that one can mention here is study smarter, not harder. So in intense study sessions, as I said, goal is maybe plan the next 30 to 40 minutes, make a plan, make sure you're not being interrupted, read the text more selectively, highlight, you can make doodles, notes in the margins of your textbook, or write on an extra sheet of paper. There are mnemonics, there are work examples, you can create various maps, and it's really important that you use your own words. Organic chemistry is very visual. The connection between the eyes, the brain, and the hand to draw structures, to draw diagrams, notes, equations, it's all very, very important. Review what you have just studied, and then, as I said, be kind to yourself and take a break.
So how to get the most out of lecture? In lecture, this term, of course, looks a little different than walking into a large lecture hall and having your notepad or your paper out and ready to listen and absorb from your instructor. Our notes are going to be taken from videos this term. And those videos have been created and edited and gone over and over to make sure that we are delivering a high quality lesson. I want you to note that when you handwrite notes while listening to your video lessons, you're moving from just that bottom rung of being a passive listener to a more active learner where you're moved, just that physical motion of taking notes embeds it into your brain even further. Detailing important concepts, note-taking that provides movement is essential to move from recall to mastery. Take those notes from the recorded video lessons and review them shortly after class we've been emphasizing, and do not procrastinate. When you sit and get, that's what happens when you arrive to a lecture and you are simply listening. That lecture is only going to allow you about 5% of retention. Even if you move to reading the text and taking notes, you're moving from 10 to 20%. But when you press play on that video, you're now moving from audiovisual to demonstration. When you attend an LA review session, you're applying discussion groups. And one of the most important things you can do is practice problems. Instead of watching us work problems, you need to solve them. You need to spend the time opening up your text, go to the back of the chapter, for instance, use your Orion where extra practice problems are available, because where you will learn for mastery is by doing. One of the most important things you can then do is attend a study group session and teach one another. So that triangle of Bloom's taxonomy, which is that hierarchy that shows levels of thinking, I want you to contemplate that as you begin creating your own study strategy for organic chemistry this term.
So how can we get the most out of the homework? We are using Wiley Plus, which is part of the textbook, for the homework. To get the most out of it, start by working the problems early. Do not wait until the due date. You're basically cheating yourself if you're waiting until then to work on these problems. This is for practice. It is a graded thing, but this is for your learning and for practicing of the material that you just learned in lectures. Do not look up the answers. Work through them yourself first. So test your knowledge. At this point, you should have read the text. You should have seen the lecture videos, done the practice problems that are in the lecture videos, gone back to your notes, reviewed them. You should be able to then do these problems, go through them, see what you get right or wrong, and then look up the answers themselves. So try to do them on your own first. Don't give up too soon. So less than 15 minutes. Don't spend too much time. Also, don't sit there in frustration. Maybe you need to take some time. Don't spend too much time on it. There is a benefit from learning chemical drawing on paper and online. So to reiterate, drawing is essential for organic chemistry. Physically drawing it out will help you learn the material better, help you retain it better. You can't just look at it and know it kind of thing. And also drawing it online. So we will be using Marvin Sketch and the Wiley Plus suite in order to draw out structures and submit your answers. That is just as important. As a researcher, as a chemist, I draw structures all the time online or in ChemDraw. It's essential, and it also helps with learning. So the goal really, and you'll realize this with the Wiley Plus homework, you have to have the exact answer. And it can be frustrating sometimes. You're like, I'm so close. I know I'm very close to having this right answer. But the point is to be exact. Chemistry is an exact science, right? So being exact, not just close enough, is really important. So practicing that. I want to mention also that the Wiley Plus has numerous help videos on how to draw online through their Marvin Sketch or through the Sketch program. Do that. Watch the videos, learn how to do it. It's really important. So it's a combination of online drawing and writing on paper in order to get this chemistry down. Get the most from office hours. So TAs will have office hours. These are your TAs who are going to be instructing the lab, but they have office hours. You can visit them for lecture things. You should. You can visit your LA. Your LA will have review sessions. You have the Bronco Study Zone. You have Student Success Services. And so you want to focus on understanding the concept and work problems out first. So try to make sure you're doing the work beforehand. Come prepared with questions. So don't just show up and be like, teach me everything. You need to come with questions. And that way we can give you the most help, or your TA can give you the best help possible. Identify your weaknesses and learn from the mistakes. There are going to be mistakes that are going to be happening. That is what happens in learning. So the ability to identify what your weaknesses are, to identify those mistakes, is a strength. So don't get frustrated. That's a good thing. You can then come to your LA or your professor or your TA and ask that question and address that weakness. And that makes you a better learner in the long run. Explain the material to yourself, the tutor, the professor, or among study groups. So to teach is to learn twice. And communicating science, using the language of science, this is the best way to do it. So if you can teach it to a friend, you can teach it to the tutor, talk it through, this is going to help you a lot in the long run. And seek out help when you're stuck after working hard. And so don't get to the point of frustration. Seek help. We all get there, right? We're like, oh, I can't do this anymore. That's okay. Come and find someone. We can put you back on track. I'm here in email and office hours and recitation. Just ask, and I can help you through that frustration.
And to tag on to this, seeking help is not weakness. It's really identifying that there may be a better way for you to understand a very difficult, abstract, complicated material. So here's some other important study tips. It's really important that there's a certain sequence. You can't just skip certain steps. You need to read the textbook. That's why it says here, start homework problems which play a pivotal role, but only after you have done the other steps. And it begins with reading. It begins with you taking notes, putting down in your own words, redrawing structures, understanding what all these symbols mean. So you're taking rough notes first. You then are watching video lessons, and you can complete these notes that you began. Remember that the notes are not just copying information. That's actually not the point. You want to summarize key information. You need to make that summary. You need to use your own words. You need to translate the technical language, the jargon that is introduced in such a challenging topic. Work extra problems. Do you know where to find them? There are often in-chapter problems and end-of-chapter problems. There are online problems. I think when I became a learner in chemistry, one thing I did well, although I had to fail first, is that I came up with my own questions. I would try to explain to myself what this was about, and if I was the instructor, what kind of question would I design? And that helped me eventually succeed in organic chemistry. So in order to prepare for tests, make sure you go over all the problems, as many as you can. And then you need to pay attention to those that you could not solve or could not solve easily. There is an important learning process. Sometimes students get a bit frustrated that the instructor doesn't just give the answer. And it really is important for you to work through and how to conclude what the correct answer is. Make sure you review old quizzes, tests, and make sure you correct your own work, because if you do not understand why there's a mistake, you will not be able to learn from that mistake.
Well, you know, as we begin our next quarter online, I wanted to emphasize that there are many benefits to being an online learner. I have been an online instructor, and I laugh when I say since the age of dial-up. If you remember having a modem and dialing on your phone, I was an instructor. I've taken classes online, and I like it. It fits my learning style. You might not have a choice right now about being an online learner, but there are many benefits. Don't use online learning as an excuse to do poorly. If anything, you have a better opportunity with online learning to form a closer relationship with your instructor, with your TAs, with your LAs. All of those resources are just a fingertip away. So flexibility, you can log into your course daily at a time that works best for you. You can control the pace of the video lesson. You can rewind, you can pause, you can even fast forward. Can't do that in a live lecture. You know what? Online learning also has many employability skills. Employers want to see that you're self-motivated, going after things that are important, seek new opportunities and ways of doing things. Learning to work with others in a virtual environment can make you become an effective leader. Participating in your discussion boards is a lot like participating in a virtual team. You will have a community that you have to share your ideas clearly, concisely, using your best grammar and your writing skills. You want to project a professional image, all very important employability skills. And self-motivation and great time management, that really has to be forefront as you plan to attend class daily. And then tips for online learning success. Treat this class as you would a, quote, real class. It is a real class. You have to show up every day. I always suggest making yourself a daily schedule where you hold yourself accountable, practice time management. If you show up at lecture from 10 to 11 every day and spend another hour studying most days of the week, you're going to be fine. Create a dedicated study space and stay organized. Leverage your network, as we've been discussing. You have a lot of people on your side rooting for your success. And remember, you're investing in yourself. You're advancing your education through a pandemic. That's quite something.
So we're Team Orgo, and we've worked very hard to create and improve your online learning experience. This has been based off chemical education research and decades of us learning as chemists or learning to be chemists and teaching chemistry. So we have years of experience, and we just want to see you guys succeed and be successful at organic chemistry. I understand it is difficult. It is pandemic, but as the last two slides that Mrs. Hanson explained, this is in your hands. Like, you have control over this class. And so be smart, be safe, be Broncos. Let us have a great term. And then we're just going to end with some helpful links. Your e-learning, this is everything. Everything's on here. So you'll find all the information for the class that you're enrolled in on e-learning. You have your student success services at Western. You have your student success resources for chemistry that you can visit, your Broncos study zone, and then explore chemistry opportunities. So possible research experiences in research labs such as my own, and Dr. Schoffers, and awards and scholarships. So check out these links. These are very helpful to you. So thanks for checking in with us.
All right, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
We want you to succeed.